We're entering the third chapter of the Mishnah of Gittin, and we are getting close to the mechanics of how we write out a get, how we write out a bill of divorce. But we are going to find as we go through this chapter that the Mishnah keeps on zigzagging, keeps on segueing between bills of divorce and other types of legal documents or uh, other legal boundary cases. So we'll see, for example, that it's very interested in assumptions, to what extent you can assume, let's say someone's alive if he was overseas. We'll see that the Mishnah deals with get, with divorce, but it also deals with other areas of doubt or uncertainty. And we'll see today takana, of repair. We've already said that one of the themes of the Mishnah of Gittin is repair. And very interesting that the word repair, takana, actually does come in at the beginning of the third chapter. And we'll get into the third chapter in a sec. But we need, first of all, just to go back and remind ourselves of the verses. And this bill of divorce, it's described in Deuteronomy, in Devarim, in the Parsha of Kitei Tzei, and the verse says, V'chatav lach sefer kritut. He writes her a scroll of separation. He writes her. So he has to write it for her. Now, we're not going to assume that he's literate. We're not going to assume that he's going to write it personally. He's probably going to get a scribe to write it for him. But it has to be written for her. V'chatav lah. He writes for her. So let's keep that in mind and let's just look at the Mishnah. So we're at the beginning of the third chapter. Beginning of the third chapter. Kol get shenichtav shelo l'shem isha pasul. Ketzad? Any get which is not written for the woman is invalid. I've translated Isha here as woman, but Isha can also mean wife. Maybe I should have translated it as wife. Any get which is not written for the wife is invalid. So how does that work? Well, let's find an example of a get not written for the wife. In fact, we're going to find three examples. So someone was passing through the market, through the shuk. Maybe if this is through the street, could be as well. And he heard the voice of a scribe dictating. Ish ploni megareshet plonit mim kom ploni. He heard someone dictating, there's some name, so-and-so. John Smith is divorcing Mary Smith, so-and-so, from such and such a place, from Maryland. So he hears this, and he says, Ve'amar zeh shmi ve'zeh shem ishti. And he says, oh, wow, that's my name. I'm called John Smith. And that's the name of my wife. She's called Mary. So maybe he wants to reuse this document. But the Mishnah says, Pasul mi legaresh bo. It's not valid for divorce. Just because it happens to be written with the right names on it doesn't mean it's written for her. It has to be written for her. Much more than just having her name on it, it has to be written for her. Let's play around with these ideas a bit more. Yoter miken, more than that, moreover. Katav legaresh ishto ve'imlach. He wrote to divorce his wife and he changed his mind. Look, we got our first little bit of takana here. Mutsa'or ben iro ve'amarlo. So some person in the same city found him and said to him, Shmi kishmacha, Shmi kishmach, v'shem ishti kishem ishtach. Interesting, sort of slightly Aramaic Hebrew here in the Mishnah. It should really be Shimcha, not Shmach, but okay. My name is like your name, and the name of my wife is like the name of your wife. In other words, can I recycle your document? Pasul milegareshbo. It's not valid for divorce. You can't reuse a document even if the names are the same. Let's keep going. Yoter miken. More than that. Yesh lo shtei nashim. Shmotehen shavim. He's got two wives and they've got the same name. Can we imagine this situation? I suppose it's possible. I suppose it's possible. He's married two wives and they're both called Sarah. Okay, so they both got the same name. Must must make life very, very difficult at home. Katav l'garesh po et hagadolah. He wrote to divorce the elder one. Lo yaresh po et hakatana. He can't recycle that document to divorce the younger one. Yoter miken. This is the last example. This is our fourth example. Fourth example. Yoter miken amar la livlar. He said to the scribe, Ktov eizazo she ertse agaresh. He said, write, write whichever one I want to divorce. I'm not quite sure what this means. Whether it means write, literally don't fill in their name, but just write, oh yeah, John Smith divorced the person that he wanted to divorce. But the conclusion is the same. Pasul mila garesh bo. Amar katov eza she'er se garesh. I think this must mean he said right. I think I'm sorry about the translation, it's not accurate, but I think he says right, right that I will divorce whoever I want to. So it's a completely generalized document, but it doesn't work. It's not valid for divorce. Now, the point is, the interesting, I mean, so this Mishnah is very clear, right? The get has to be written out. But the rabbis have another principle, which is they want scribes to have documents ready. And they do want to make it easy or possible for divorce to take place. So actually, although this is a clean sort of idealistic picture of the Mishnah, actually the sages are going to allow the scribes to write the boilerplate text of the get out in advance and just to leave blanks for the names. So in other words, some of the get will be written out in advance, but the names are going to be inserted for the woman, and so is the date. And we've already seen, by the way, the date is crucial for the get. So we are going to let the scribe write some stuff out beforehand. And what he writes out beforehand is called the tofes. Actually, in modern Hebrew, I think a form is a tofes. And the material which is particular to the wife is called the tofer. So he's going to write out the tofes in advance. It'll just be a blank get form, like a printed get form, but it will be filled in with the right names. So the rabbis are going to let us do that because they want scribes to have documents on hand. So let's just see how this works. Hakotev tofsei gittin. Someone who writes out forms for gets. Tofes for a get. Tzarich shianiach makom ha'ish u'makom ha'isha u'makom hazman. So you write out the boilerplate text. You've got to leave blank spaces for the name of the man, the name of the woman, and the date. So that's how we're going to do it in practice. But now the Mishnah is going to just segue into all other kinds of legal documents. By the way, when we get into the Mishnah of Kiddushin, the Mishnah of betrothal, we will see the same thing. That the Mishnah begins with betrothal of a woman, but it then gets into all kinds of other legal situations, almost as if it wants to draw a distinction between issues of marriage and other legal contracts. Because there are differences, there are fundamental differences. And here too, so the Mishnah is now going to move into other documents. We're going to have a list actually of two kinds of yes, let's look at two kinds of documents. Shtar Malva. So let's take a loan document. Sarich sheyaniach makom haloveh u'makom hamalveh u'makom hama'ot u'makom hazvan. So the loan document has to leave basically 4 blank spaces: the name of the lender, the name of the borrower, the amount of the money, and the date. So we're still going to work on a form just like a get, but we're going to have 4 blank spaces. Shtare Mekach, sale documents. צריך שיניח מקום הלוקח ומקום המוכר ומקום המעות ומקום השדה ומקום הזמן. Sale documents have to leave blank. Now we got 5 spaces: the name of the seller, the name of the purchaser, the amount of money, the place of the property, because we're dealing here with sales of land. If it was just a sale of an object, you'd hand over the money and take the object. So we're talking about land. And the date. We're going to deal with the date because, of course, if there's another claim on the estate, if there's another creditor, then it's crucial to know the date on which the land changed hands. So the date. And then the Mishnah concludes, Mipnei hatakana, because of the takana, because of a takana, it's a tikkun, it's an improvement, it's something, it's a ruling that the rabbis make for the public good. And what is the takana here? Well, I think that the rabbis seem to be anxious that if people are running around reusing loan documents without the correct blanks, they will eventually get themselves into a situation where they reuse a bill of divorce without the correct blanks. It's almost as if they're training the scribe when he's writing a loan document or a sale document to adopt the same convention that he adopts for writing out a divorce document, even though a loan document, by the way, does not need it doesn't have to be written expressly for the borrower, and a sale document doesn't have to be written expressly. So these stringencies don't apply theoretically to loan and to sale documents, but we seem to be training our scribes here in the right way so that when they do write out a divorce document, they follow the correct procedure. And we'll see, by the way, that this is not completely accepted. Rabbi Yehuda posel kulam. Rabbi Yehuda posel b'chulam. Rabbi Judah disqualifies all of them. He says, look, you have to write the whole document out from the beginning. You cannot have forms just waiting to be filled in. Rabbi Elazar machshir b'chulam. Rabbi Elazar says they're all kosher. Chutz mi gitei nashim. Shenemar chatav la lishma. Rabbi Elazar validates all of them, i.e., he accepts the divorce document. So here we're going to make a distinction now between the commercial document and the divorce document. And according to Rabbi Elazar, we've got this verse, v'chatav la, he writes for her. So according to Rabbi Elazar, it's got to be expressly for her. A loan document, a commercial document can be recycled, but a divorce document is something slightly different. It has to be written expressly for her. So Rabbi Elazar would not accept this idea of the form with the blanks. And the rabbis don't rule according to Rabbi Elazar, but his opinion is important, and it teaches us something significant about the difference between a divorce and a commercial transaction.